Alyssa, how do we maintain these long distance friendships when somebody moves from the Wedge to Kingfield?
So long, such a distance. Wow.
Yeah, how are we even friends? Like, this isn't, this
Yeah.
is not Kingfield for sure.
Yeah, you're
I'm
all the
not
way in
convinced
Ward
we're friends.
4. You barely have enough internet to maintain our friendship, our podcast-based friendship. So, good.
Bruh, I just don't have enough Wi-Fi. I'm hardwired in, and that has seemed to solve all the problems. So,
Peggy Sue, I see you putting the mic closer to your mouth and it never gets any louder, and I don't think your
Yeah.
headphones are actually doing anything.
Yeah,
oh, you're totally right. They are.
it's okay.
It's amazing.
It's all right.
Um,
You're using a different
Anyways,
mic,
back
but
to
it's
you,
working.
Alyssa.
Yeah.
Back to Alyssa.
Anyway, I mean, I think the first question all of us have to ask ourselves is like, what are our boundaries around friendships? Because one of the intentional decisions I made as a person who went to Indiana for college and then spent some time abroad and then came back, was that like I really wanted to, like, it took me a long time to get to this place, but I eventually decided that like I wanted to invest my friendship energy in the geography that really mattered to me, right? And so like I wasn't going to be putting a lot of time and energy into those friendships for those folks who lived in Indiana. As much as they were lovely humans, like they had decided to continue to live in Indiana, and I was not going to drive back twice a year to play Dungeons and Dragons with them, as much as that was lovely and very, very fun. Because it really mattered to me to have folks who had that like shared geography in an understanding of like what is the construction of our world. So I think like getting clear on that with yourself is the first step, and deciding like do you actually want to maintain those friendships? Does that matter to you? Because if you don't, that is okay. You just should make that as a decision, as opposed to just letting those friendships dissolve and not having anybody in that situation understand why, right? Like it's really hard to have a friendship dissolve or fade away, as the parlance goes, when half or all of the people in that situation don't understand why it's happening. I don't know. I think beyond that, it's like part of the reason I personally made that decision was because it is very much a value to me to take my friendships offline as much as humanly possible, which has been like less possible in the context of the pandemic. But I think to all of Peggy Sue's earlier points about social media and the role that it plays, I think maintaining friendships over social media or the internet are really challenging in specific ways. And like for me, very, very draining. For some folks, it's not very draining, and they get a lot of energy around maintaining friendships over the internet, over email or over text or whatever it is. But like, I need a lot of in-person interaction to bolster any online communication I'm having. And so I made like a strategic choice to say like, most of my friendships are going to be ones that I maintain that are like local. Mm-hmm. But I have like a really good pair of friends who like moves abroad they're like living in Glasgow now. They're living lovely lives. One of them is like doing grad school, and the other one is like an internationally renowned bartender. And they move every 6 months to a different country, and they know people who live like everywhere all over the world. And that really works for them because they really want to maintain their schedule of travel and having virtual interactions with people. And that's like what they need and what nourishes them. And they invest deeply for a short period of time. And I need the longer term relationship. So that's not really an answer, except to say that like, decide what your boundaries are and do what feels right for you.
I think that's really insightful that, you have to know some about yourself, as far as, what are you looking for? What are your own needs? Because if you just put yourself out there without any sort of, understanding of what you're looking to get from that, it can sometimes be fruitless, or you might invest energy in a place that you wouldn't otherwise. And that, I think that's, as you were speaking, one of the things that I was thinking we've said a lot in this conversation is about intention. When I think about the intention, it's like, you're looking for a very deep, big kind of friendship, that you do have to be intentional about that, and you do have to be willing to invest in that. It doesn't happen entirely organically. You know, the first greetings or meetings might be kind of organic, but you know, at some point it takes work, and that's okay, and that's a good thing. But you know, recognize that it is, you know, you will get what you give in that sort of situation. If yeah, when you find somebody who is worth that investment, that's awesome.
I think just building off of that, kind of bringing it back to big friendships, is like, you don't know, if you don't know yourself, you don't know how those friendships really like meet your needs, or how to meet someone else's needs, right? Like, I think that our deepest, most meaningful friendships operate so similarly to like romantic relationships. And I think that that's something that like I really love, again, about the Big Friendship book, is really thinking about and I think this is something that our generation is learning more than like our parents' generations or generations before them, around like our romantic partners, and like that those partners like have to fulfill like your emotional needs in a way that like I think that people were very like, for many generations, like this partnership fulfills just like this need around like you know, for women, like a provider, you know, if we think about like very early, like 1950s, 1960s, like a housewife and a husband, right? Like there's a lot of like pairing to, you know, have like an output, right? Like someone to mother your children, or someone to provide for you. And as that phrase, right, that like women are increasingly more independent, and like relationships are like much broader than just like a man and a woman, right? That like the partnerships that we enter into are far less about like economic mobility or about stability, and much more about like what we need and what works for us, and how like the other person like meets those needs, and how we meet those needs for the other person. And so I think that our like romantic partnerships become much more even like friendships, right? And so the line increasingly, as we like select partners, romantic partners, who are much more like our closest and best friends, and then we have best friends who are like incredibly important and valuable, like those things have started to meet in the middle, at least like for me, right? Like where I see Nate, my husband, as like my best friend in the entire world. I love spending time with him more than I love spending time with anyone in the universe. And like we have so much fun together, and the way that we talk about things, and the way that we like gossip, right? Like it's very similar to this like really beautiful friendship that I have with my best friends, right? And like that meets in that similar way. And both of those things are only possible because like I know what I need out of those relationships, and how to make both of those things thrive. And I think that that's where like that's what I love about about this Big Friendship book, is really thinking about like, how can I articulate what I need, so that like Alyssa said, I can tell someone like, actually this doesn't fit in what my idea of friendship is, or like to have a good friendship I need this. And that to me is increasingly closer and closer to the romantic partnerships we have, where you do have to articulate what you need and what you don't need. And friendships where you can't do that, or where you can do that, are so much better versus ones where you can't have those really important conversations.
Alyssa, can you give me any sound where you're like trashing your spouse? Because Peggy Sue is clearly very in love, and we need someone who has the opposite experience, and I'm hoping that's you.
I don't think that's me. I am sad that I can't help you, John.
Okay.
No, I like my spouse, and yeah, I think at some point, some of you will maybe meet him. He's not an urbanist. He doesn't ride bikes.
He doesn't seem very interested in your friends. I've noticed that. He doesn't seem interested at all in your friends. And I admire that. I respect and admire that. He thinks the things we like to talk about are stupid and a waste of time. And I have the same perspective when I meet people. No patience for that.
You know, it is very helpfully humbling to have a spouse who like doesn't have any idea of the amount of effort that I and my people have put in to fix Lindale, and then to have him text me that, hey, the county's doing this conversion and people on Reddit seem to think it's good. Have you heard about this? Like, it's very humbling to be like, this is how regular, non-transportation, local politics obsessed folks like receive information.
He's a good sounding board.
He is. He's great.
What does your average idiot think about this? Just,
Hey now. It's not very friendly, John.
Okay, I'm sorry. Your average man on the street thinks about a
Man in a car.
You're typically non-engaged resident.
Yeah.